Warrior as a class carries easily biggest weapon arsenal in GW2's roster. Unfortunately, part of this arsenal is only meme fuel or just gathering dust in my inventory. Rifle falls into this unfortunate category. For some time I wondered why is that exactly. After all, Volley does exact same damage as rapid fire, and Killshot does about 15% more damage than True Shot. While Explosive Shell adds AoE, Brutal Shot grants some mobility and evasion, both of them are sources of vulnerability, and Rifle Butt knocks people back into Paleozoic era and restores ammo to your weapon skills. Rifle can't be that bad, yet it is underwhelming anyway. Rifle is an example that numbers aren't everything, and that there are always variables in play that aren't listed on the tooltips. Comparison to closest relative skills can help us pinpoint what is wrong with specific rifle skills, starting with Killshot and True Shot. Both abilities have the same cooldown of 8 seconds, root you for the casting duration, and pierce through targets, dealing mostly comparable damage, where Killshot does around 15% more. Someone might look at this and think, what's the issue then? Someone perceptive, on the other hand, will ask, why does the burst skill with high resource requirement and almost twice the cast time deal only 15% more damage? In realistic scenario, we aren't casting a Killshot at full power every 8 seconds. Hitting your opponent 30 times within this time frame to generate enough adrenaline would require you hitting your foe almost 4 times a second, which isn't possible with Rifle, even with permanent quickness. Yes, there are adrenaline generating traits and abilities, but so there are blocks, evade, CC and counter pressure. You'll be able to generate enough adrenaline the way God intended only in PvE, where even at full power casting this skill is effective DPS loss due to its unhinged cast time. In short, Killshot is an inferior version of True Shot while requiring special resource to cast, because as we know, people at ANET only work at Warrior for 15 minutes before patch goes live after they forgot Warrior exists for the whole 3 months. By the way, Crackshot is still bugged. Thank you. Thankfully for our poor Rifle, weapon skills don't fall flat on their face as spectacularly as Burst does. Volley does a little bit more damage in PvE and exactly the same damage in versus modes as Rapid Fire. Main difference in between these two is that one pierces and stores charges while other applies vulnerability. Volley also applies its payload in 5 hits compared to Rapid Fire's 10. That doesn't seem like a disadvantage, after all it's still the same damage. However, in every instance when we are facing an opponent with soft blocks, it becomes a disadvantage. Guardian with Shield of Wrath and Aegis jumping at you with his Sword 2 passively negates entirety of Volley's damage by blocking 4 out of 5 strikes and making 1 miss, while in the same scenario negating only half of Rapid Fire's damage. On top of that, Warrior cares more about number of hits because that's how adrenaline is generated. Further than this, Rapid Fire projectiles not only travel 1500 units, they don't disappear after reaching their range threshold. They just fall to the ground, effectively flying even a little further than this already exceptional range. Volley projectiles reach 1200 units and vanish into the Shadow Realm, which makes Rifle unreliable in fights at range, the thing ranged weapons were supposed to be good at. Similarly, Explosive Shell isn't an objectively bad skill, but falls behind in every category, in every way possible. It is supposed to be a source of AoE damage, but because it is one and done type of skill, that AoE damage doesn't translate into AoE pressure. On top of that, because said AoE appears behind targeted enemy, to hit our AoE on multiple targets, we have to always target a closest enemy to us, which is often counterintuitive to normal target priority in typical teamfight, as targets you are trying to pressure and kill will often seek cover or try to build distance between themselves and whatever kills them, aka you. So if they run to the back of their team, your AoE goes and domes the nearest wall. And if they go out of your range even a little bit, your projectile ends up on the bloody ethereal plane. The same happens if the projectile gets blocked or dodged. it just disappears into the sunset, never to be seen again, denying you the AoE you were promised. This skill would work better as ground targeted skill, at least you'd get your bloody AoE when you ask for your bloody AoE. Next in line, Brutal Shot has been updated to roll first and then fire if eligible, which at least made the roll part consistent. However, forcing the backwards movement, something that plagues all skills with this feature, makes utilizing this maneuver a risk you have to constantly keep in your mind when near any ledge or environmental hazard. In my opinion, all skills that do a dodge roll upon use should at least let you move to the side if not omnidirectionally. That way you'd have a way to not thyself off the ledge if CC'd or immobilized with your back towards it. Also, is it just me or delay between roll and the shot takes a shot a half of my lifespan? Every skill in the game that moves you back and fires a projectile does so while moving. Why can't this at least fire immediately after? Why do I have to complete dodge roll animation, return to default pose, then take aim and then fire? Why isn't my character coming out of the dodge roll directly into the firing stance? Ainet saw the need to remove aftercasts from Guardians Greatsword 4 and 5. No one is going to die if other classes also get the same amount of attention. Finally, Rifle Butt. As a skill with half a second cast time and ammo recharge feature, it doesn't fall far from where most knockback falls in terms of their total value or otherwise usability. Nothing really wrong with this particular skill. At most, its cast time and aftercast could be a little bit shorter. In summary, rifle skills don't deviate far from what comparable skills do in terms of base damage, but their reliability is lacking. I haven't seen a single person even suggesting rifle for PvE since the bloody Ice Age, and it's not hard to understand why. As it is plain worse in damage than Warrior's melee options, has very clunky rotation due to forced backdodge and long cast times on everything but Volley, poorest out of all warrior weapons synergy with warrior traits, and forced stationary bird skill with half of charged dragon slash's cast time, with neither of its defensive options, its trait options, nor even a quarter of its damage potential. And most warrior traits are tailored to specific weapons that, surprise surprise, aren't rifle. Traits like Axe Mastery, Forceful Greatsword, Sun and Moon Style require specific weapons to grant full effect. It of course doesn't mean there isn't any trait that improves rifle, don't get me wrong. Universal traits like Berserker's Power still apply. However, all two-handers have their dedicated trait. The issue is that the rifle's dedicated trait is completely and utterly garbage. Crackshot improves skill 1 of all warriors' ranged weapons. Just skill 1, if not counting the bug. Now take any trait of any class related to any weapon and ask yourself, would it be any good if only applied to its auto chain? The answer is usually plain and simple no. Skill 1 is on the most part a filler, whose only purpose is to exist while your actual skills are on cooldown. Improving your worst option to make it less worst is not going to magically elevate it beyond being bad. Maybe that's why Ainet wouldn't bother fixing Crackshot, because it's not worth bloody fixing. Its place it's in the garbage, and all it should be is replaced. Similarly to Mace, Berserker breathes an inch of life into the weapon by giving it new and not garbage burst skill. Unfortunately, to reliably access said improved burst, Berserker has to generate a lot of adrenaline in an instant. And because Rifle is rather garbage at doing so, Berserker has to invest his utility slots into adrenaline generation specifically, instead of being able to rely on what rage skills provide. Rifle isn't unplayably bad. Its skills are at least comparable to other similar skills, but never come out on top in any of these comparisons, being always just a step behind. Unfortunately, being a step behind in every category is a recipe for disappointment, especially when followed by the gallon of tears Crackshot is. Rifle is one reworked trait and a couple quality of life changes away from relevance, which is both a reason to have hope and a reason to abandon it, as Ainet has no business fixing the damn thing because no one cares about it enough to throw a wrench in the goulash all of a sudden. That's why we can only cling to Crackshot and stuff it in everyone's faces, as that is actually not working as intended on top of being garbage to begin with. And maybe, just maybe, if we stir the pot enough with the aforementioned wrench, we could possibly see some changes. And that only leaves one question to end the video on. What will come first? Crackshot fix or the 5th expansion? Crabface out.